In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, April 10th here in South Korea. The U.S. Defense Department has made a formal referral to the U.S. Justice Department for investigation into the unauthorized disclosure of classified documents detailing the efforts against Russia's war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, speculation mounts over the Bank of Korea's future rate policy as inflation shows signs of slowing but also spreading to other sectors here on the local front. And Korea's tax revenue plunges to a fresh low during the first 2 months of this year, fanning fears that the government may soon loosen its grip on fuel taxes to account for the growing deficit. U.S. authorities are investigating the unauthorized online disclosure of alleged classified military documents sharing sensitive information about Russia's war in Ukraine and about its allies, including South Korea. Our Son Heung-min has the latest.
Regarding the dozens of highly classified, recently leaked military documents, the U.S. says it's reviewing the matter. That's according to the Pentagon on Sunday in a written interview with South Korea's Yonhap news agency. The department said it was looking into the leak and that it has asked the Justice Department to launch an investigation. Last Friday, a new batch of photos of wrinkled documents apparently originating from the Pentagon was shared online. They revealed information seemingly obtained by U.S. spy agencies on a wide range of matters, including Russia's invasion of Ukraine and also info on key allies like South Korea and Israel, which could hurt diplomatic ties. Citing the leaked documents, the New York Times detailed a conversation between then-President Yoon Suk-yeol's Secretary for Foreign Affairs and his national security advisor that the government was, quote, "mirroring concerns that the U.S. would not be the end user if South Korea were to comply with a U.S. request for ammunition." In February, the U.S. had reportedly inquired about purchasing ammunition from South Korea, but the administration was worried about supplies reaching Ukraine and going against its long-standing policy of not supplying weapons to countries at war. The Times noted that details of the discussion between top advisors of South Korea's president were based on signals intelligence, a term used by spy agencies to describe intercepted communications from phone calls to electronic messages. The papers also contain plans by Russian mercenaries, the Wagner Group, to operate in Africa and how the Israeli Foreign Intelligence Agency Mossad had encouraged its staff and members of the public to participate in the anti-government protests that took place across the country in March. According to CNN, U.S. officials say the documents are real. Son Heung-min, Arirang News.
North Korea has remained unresponsive to routine calls with South Korea for the fourth day in a row. Accordingly, Seoul believes Pyongyang has unilaterally cut off communication. And in response, the Unification Ministry here on Monday spoke of monitoring the situation closely. Earlier on Friday, the ministry confirmed that it had failed to get a response on an inter-Korean liaison channel and a military hotline, both of which are normally used twice a day. The ministry adds this is the first time that calls have stopped for longer than a day since communications were restored in October 2021. Prior to that period, North Korea had cut off the cross-border communication in light of the Seoul-Washington joint military drills. Earlier on this Monday, the remains of Korean independence activist Hwang Ki-hwan landed in South Korea from the U.S. 100 years after his death. According to Seoul's Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, Hwang was buried in New York in 1923 after surrendering to heart disease at the age of 37. He moved to the U.S. in 1904 and volunteered to fight as an American soldier on the Western Front in Europe during World War I. After the war, Hwang became a diplomat for the Korean provisional government dedicated to seeking independence from Japanese colonial rule and to raising awareness of Japanese atrocities in Korea. His story was the basis of the Korean drama Mr. Sunshine, which was released back in the year 2018. In other news, the government and ruling party have decided to mediate over a proposed nursing bill that has pit the nation's nurses and doctors against each other. During a meeting on Sunday, relevant officials and lawmakers of the People Power Party agreed to come up with a middle ground proposal over the possible legislation of the Nursing Act. The act aims to improve working conditions for nurses by outlining the roles and duties of licensed nurses separately from the current Medical Service Act, which puts them under the guidance of physicians. The act is backed by the opposition Democratic Party of Korea, but opposed by doctors' groups. Come tomorrow, that is Tuesday, Seoul Central Bank will share its latest decision on its interest rate as pundits make note of Korea's slowing but nonetheless spreading inflation. My colleague Lee Kyung-hun reports.
Inflation in South Korea remains stubborn, but appears to be slowing, coming at 4.2% in March, the smallest on-year jump in a year.
Consumer prices have been seemingly cooling down since the second half of last year and are likely to stabilize further throughout this year.
That's raising some anticipation of an interest rate freeze when the Bank of Korea makes its decision on Tuesday.
The US may slow down rate hikes as the labour market stabilises. That's easing pressure on the BOK in terms of the exchange rate, and perhaps means it will make its rate decision based on the domestic situation.
However, with the recent announcement by OPEC Plus to cut production, oil prices are seemingly rebounding, possibly affecting prices in general. And even with that, oil prices potentially surging, items are getting more expensive across the board. The price pressures, which initially began with fuel and food, have been seen in 86% of 458 items last month, most notably in the service sector, where restaurant prices jumped 7.4% in March, a significantly high number compared to the overall inflation of 4.2% in that month. With this, core inflation, which excludes the price changes in the volatile food and energy sectors, remained relatively heated at 4.8%. Against the backdrop of these mixed inflation figures, eyes are on the Bank of Korea's upcoming decision. Lee Kyung-hun, Arirang News.
Tax revenue tumbled during the first 2 months of this year, triggering speculation that the government may ease its cap on fuel taxes. Our economics correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
South Korea's tax revenue may fall short of its estimate this year. That's according to Finance Minister Chu Kyung-woo on Friday, amid rising concern over tax revenue, as South Korea recorded its greatest ever on-year decline earlier this year. The Ministry of Economy and Finance had already released data on the country's tax revenue for the first 2 months of 2023, which came to around 54 trillion Korean won, or $41 billion, roughly $12 billion less than in the same period last year. Initially, the government forecast a total of roughly $300 billion for 2023. However, even if the government collects the same amount of tax as last year from March until the end of the year, the deficit will surpass $15 billion. And if the trend continues, tax revenue for 2023 will see an on-year decrease for the first time since 2019. And amid the growing concern, the government is reportedly reviewing a plan to gradually remove fuel tax discounts. With oil prices hitting record highs around the world last year, South Korea has been offering a temporary concession on fuel to ease the burden on drivers. From the first day of 2023, the tax cut on gasoline was reduced to 25% from 37%, while the rate for diesel has been set at 37% since last year. With that rate set to expire at the end of this month, the government must decide soon whether or not to extend the discounts. Among potential options is reducing the tax cut for diesel to the same level as gasoline or cutting the rate for both gasoline and diesel to the 15 to 20% range. Apart from fuel tax, adjusting the tax cut applied to car purchases has been also mentioned as a way to secure and stabilize tax revenue. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Tottenham Hotspur forward Son Heung-min scored his 100th English Premier League goal on Saturday, becoming the first Asian player in the league to hit this milestone. It came during Saturday's 2-1 win over Brighton and Hove Albion at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. It was his 7th league goal of the season and 11th in all competitions. The Spurs are sitting in 5th place in the league, 1 spot shy of a Champions League qualification position with 8 games to play. Son joined Tottenham in 2015 and has played for his club a total of 260 times. On the international front, tensions are high on the Taiwan Strait as China responds aggressively to last week's high-profile visit to the U.S. by Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen. Our i-SMR explains.
Following Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's visit to the U.S., where she held talks with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, China began 3 days of military drills around Taiwan on Saturday. According to the Taiwanese Armed Forces on Sunday, it spotted 70 Chinese aircraft, including Su-30 fighters and H-6 bombers, as well as 11 ships around the island. A simulated precision strike drill was conducted against key targets in those areas. In response, Taiwan deployed several fighter jets, as well as the Coast Guard, ramping up its full military readiness. It's been also reported that the U.S. deployed its Boeing P-8 Poseidon, an American maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft, capable of detecting military activity in the Taiwan Air Defense Identification Zone. Washington had already warned Beijing against overreacting to the recent visit by President Tsai to the U.S., adding that it would closely watch China's actions. Taiwan's defense ministry accused China of intentionally creating tension in the Taiwan Strait while negatively affecting international security and economic development. Despite this, China has made it clear that it will continue to ramp up pressure on Taiwan as it's set to continue its military drill on Monday using live ammunition. Watchers say the latest response from Beijing will most certainly raise tensions not only between China and Taiwan, but with the U.S. as well. i-SMR, Arirang News.
And back here in Korea, the government is expanding its investment into innovative small modular reactors given their safety and convenience. Our Chung Won-ju has details.
The i-SMR, or Innovative Small Modular Reactor, is 1,000 times safer than current nuclear power plants. South Korea's i-SMR business has been recently put into motion. The South Korean government has decided to inject 1.2 trillion won, or roughly $900 million into this year's budget for energy technology development such as SMRs. One of their major benefits is that they're safe to install in city centers and residents wouldn't need to evacuate if there was an accident.
The SMR is a combination of many safety improvement technologies that have been studied so far. The probability of a major accident to occur is once in a billion years.
With an electric output of 170 megawatts electrical and a size less than 1 to 100 of current nuclear power plants, the i-SMR could replace thermal power plants fueled by coal at a cheaper price and with shorter construction periods. Another advantage of the i-SMR is that it can stably and cheaply produce hydrogen.
I think that we should accelerate the development of hydrogen and nuclear power plants, especially SMR technology.
Both the ruling and opposition parties in South Korea guaranteed the safety of SMRs and agreed to help advance it into the export market by 2030.
Rather than saying nuclear power plants are dangerous so they're unnecessary, we should try to reduce their risk factors so that people can accept their use.
I have the know-how for the predecessor of smart nuclear power plants, and though it's an ambitious plan, I think it's possible to achieve.
Roughly 80 kinds of SMRs are being developed globally, and South Korea secured the original technology for the first time in the world in 2012. The market for alternatives to coal power is expected to grow to more than 100 trillion won annually after the 2030s. With South Korea's investment in i-SMRs, the race to develop them has already begun. Chung Won-ju, Arirang News.
Authorities are proposing the hammering out of smart buildings that better accommodate the productive use of robots. Our Son Heung-min has more on this proposal.
While robots are already being used in many parts of the country to make life easier, many limitations still restrict their use. Most are either cleaning, carrying food to customers, or disinfecting as it wanders around. While these are all helpful features, experts in Korea believe they can do more. That's why the nation's land ministry has come up with the idea of smart buildings that are designed so that robots can be used to their fullest.
When a building becomes smart, the robots will bring a package from outside to right in front of the office or even into the room. It's an idea that makes things a lot more convenient.
The ministry also predicted that the technology would provide a setting where robots can disinfect areas and take care of elders.
When seniors need a wheelchair or rescue robots with handles and wheels, they aren't just for use at home. They need to use them outdoors too, and even in different buildings.
They also suggested how urban air mobility will be applied to the smart building project. Urban air mobility, also known as UAM, is a next-generation traffic system either for traveling or transporting freight. The ministry said once the smart buildings are complete, they will set up UAM stations for easier transfers and a faster response system against any potential accidents. Experts from some 50 public and private organizations have taken part in launching the committee and said they are still working on the exact outline to put the project in place, as autonomous driving and UAM are some of the technologies that still require time to be fully commercialized. Son Heung-min, Arirang News.
What is lost in Seoul Metro is found in Seoul Metro. Now, this is a norm here in the capital city, much to the relief of those who unwittingly leave behind their possessions on subway trains or at subway stations. Our Kim Jung-shil has more on this reality and the abundant praise from foreign visitors.
This is a lost and found center for subway lines number 3 and 4 here in central Seoul. Some items get picked up quite quickly. Some have been here since last year. There's no name tag, no address, nothing to help find out who the owner is.
More than 500 to 600 items arrive every month here at Chungmuro Lost and Found Center. And some of the items here are quite unexpected. Like this celadon, for example, was found at a women's bathroom inside the station last October and is still waiting to be picked up.
It's not just the celadon that's unusual. We asked the manager about some of the more surprising items she's found.
We get shocked when we get mannequin heads. Sometimes there are even false teeth for senior citizens.
There are also guitars, violins, and fire extinguishers. If no one claims these items after 6 months, they then get taken to social work institutes to be used for people in need. Recently, there's been a surge in foreigners who visit this center.
Recently, a Japanese tourist came to look for his watch. We had that watch at the center. We asked him if he has any photos of the watch, and he did, so we returned it to him.
More than 2,400 thank you letters were sent to Seoul Metro last year by people who had found their lost valuables. An exchange student from the Netherlands said she knows someone who had a lucky escape.
My friend lost her phone in the subway and someone brought it to the Lost and Found, so she got her phone again. I think it was really a good thing because I think back home in the Netherlands that would not happen. Someone would have taken the phone.
Lost and Found centers in South Korea upload daily findings online on the day that they arrive. Anyone missing their belongings can visit lost112.go.kr and see if their belongings are there. The Lost and Found Center manager said it really helps if passengers can remember the subway car number they've been traveling on, which is written on the platform floor. Kim Jung-shil, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the French city of Marseille, at least 8 people are missing after 2 buildings collapsed. The buildings came down after an explosion on Sunday morning local time, which authorities say was likely caused by a gas leak. The explosion also partly damaged a 3rd building nearby. 5 were injured in the collapse, and almost 200 people in the vicinity have been evacuated. Initial rescue efforts were hampered by dust and heat from the fire, which took hours to extinguish. Officials say that fatalities among those missing are likely. The disaster marks the 2nd time in 5 years that a building has collapsed in the port city. In November 2018, 8 people were killed when 2 houses collapsed due to structural issues. Turning to the French Alps now, where an avalanche on Sunday killed 4 people and injured 9. Search teams are looking for 2 people still missing. Among the dead were 2 mountain guides overseeing a group of people thought to be backcountry skiing at the time when the risk level was reasonable. The avalanche near Mont Blanc spanned an area of 1 kilometer by 500 meters. It started when a slab of snow fell from the top of a mountain. Officials have not ruled out the chance of a second avalanche. Meanwhile, golf legend Tiger Woods has withdrawn from this year's Masters over a foot injury. The 5-time Masters champion said on social media on Sunday, local time, that he is withdrawing due to pain in his heel. The injury is believed to be linked to a 2021 car crash that severely injured his right leg and required multiple surgeries. The 47-year-old had reached the 3rd round, making the cut for a record equaling 23rd time. The Masters at Augusta National Golf Club in the U.S. state of Georgia has seen delays this year due to poor weather. Spain's John Ram won the tournament by 4 shots. And finally, animals at London Zoo joined in the Easter festivities as they were handed special Easter egg treats from their handlers last week. The animals were put on a traditional Easter egg hunt with eggs hidden in their enclosures. Zookeepers said it served as a way for the animals to practice their natural foraging behaviors normally done in the wild. Rare Sumatran tigers, meerkats and squirrel monkeys were among the animals taking part in the hunt. The eggs were made of cardboard and filled with treats ranging from moss and crickets to sweet potato, sweet corn and peas. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasant spring day nationwide with a few things to be mindful of. First, big temperature differences of more than 10 to 20 degrees Celsius across Korea. Daejeon is having white gaps today, feeling like going through 2 seasons in just a few hours. So it's a day for turning heaters on early in the morning, but then needing the AC for the afternoon. Meanwhile, East Coast regions Daegu and Ulsan are under dry weather advisory again. And making matters worse, wind is going to pick up in the East Coast regions and West Coast from the afternoon, with stronger wind in the forecast tomorrow. But for today, the nation is enjoying plenty of sunny skies with safe air quality levels all day long today. It's a good day to spend some time outdoors. Meanwhile, southern provinces are seeing highs above 20 degrees Celsius. Then rain is in the forecast for tomorrow, starting from the capital in the morning and spreading nationwide by the afternoon. Then one more round of rain is possible at the end of the week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That ends Monday's afternoon newscast, but do stay with us for our daily panel session coming up right after this break. Thank you for now.